brilliant you are, there's no place for you.
The Become Everything You Are conference attracts top science and engineering students from high schools and colleges and professionals as well. For years, it has been a recruiting ground for the military and defense contractors. Not this year. Organizers of the conference say those recruiters have pulled out, including from the Army, Navy, Air Force, National Guard, and Space Force.
Students showed up here in Baltimore with pre-planned interviews, Victor, with the military, with federal agencies. And 3 weeks ago, every federal agency pulled out, including NASA. All of the military pulled out. Pressure was put on defense contractors.
The same Army recruiting unit that would have attended BEA instead participated in a National Rifle Association sponsored event in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, a predominantly white gathering that recruiters acknowledge is less likely to yield high quality applicants.
It's true. I mean, and that's the signal that we don't want to send to our best and brightest scientists and engineers.
Welcome to another edition of Let It Be Known and another day of reckoning with America's dictatorship. Niall, it is it's not getting better.
Audio problems.
Okay, I can hear you well though. Can you hear me at all? Niall cannot hear me.
I'm gonna go out and come back in.
All right, she's gonna go out and come back in, but it's just another day. I reckon it's so much is going on. I mean, you see that video there, and the NAACP, of course, they joined it was the Legal Defense Fund who joined with the Urban League and others filing lawsuits. There's an environmental justice thing. You're gonna have to tell me about that one. It's bouncing off my head. I know I should know more about it, but Mike V and Orangey are asking about the Black MAGAs. Yeah, that's a good question. We'd love to have a conversation with these guys, right? Byron Donalds and Tim Scott. We'd love to have a conversation with them. Where are they amidst all of this? Niall, are you with us now?
I'm here. Can you hear me? Good morning.
Good morning. Hey, it's just a rough day. It's just a rough morning, I should say. But it'll get better.
Right. It will.
I mean, internally it'll get better. all
around. I had to switch and everything, but we're here. Good morning, America. Let it be known, Kathy.
Good morning, Black America.
Black America, yes.
Okay. So I was saying how so much is going on, and I'm scrolling through like our internal text, and folks, it's no surprise, right? That there's so much more that we just don't have time to bring you every day, but we talk about internally. I was mentioning too, like the NAACP emergency meeting that we were sharing in the text in Detroit, and that is that was pretty interesting. What was said there. 17 states are suing to end protections for students with special needs. They are going after not just Black folks, not just the poor folks, but they're going after those with special needs. How low can you go?
I ran across a video on TikTok yesterday from a woman that's in the NIH hospital in DMV. And she was saying that she's getting cancer treatment. There are people in the hospital with that need transplants, and that the nurses didn't know if they would have their jobs today. And so she said the tension, and this is a patient, you could tell she's going through chemotherapy. You could tell she's losing her hair. She's like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to keep my treatments up. The tension is so thick, you could cut it in a knife with this in this hospital, that the nurses don't know if they're going to have a job by Friday. It's horrific what they're doing just on so many levels, and
Destroying lives.
destroying lives, and it's like they're not going through the process. They're just pushing a button. They're just pushing a button, and they're
They
not
are.
looking at the ramifications
Oh,
of
they
what
could
they're
care less.
doing.
They are bloodthirsty. It's like those old vampire movies. You can't get enough of the blood. It's unbelievable. And as the Empress says, that Trump does not like people with disabilities, and we see him mock people with disabilities. So she's absolutely right. And this guy, just to show you again the type of leadership we have, as far as the presidency is concerned. So another plane crash, right? Is like
Mhm.
the 50
But these are 2
50,000
small
plane
planes,
crash.
right? These are 2 small
Yes.
plane crashes. Okay.
Yeah, and it's like the 500 million plane crash since he's been elected, right?
Mhm.
Since he's been in office. But then he goes out and he talks about his experience in a plane. It's like there is no filter whatsoever with this guy. There is no human, not even feigning human decency. It's unbelievable that y'all people who picked him, oh my gosh.
It
What the how disgraceful can you be to stand with something like this? And you know,
it's
you
believable. It's believable because we had 1 term with him. We're in the
there
FAFO
you go. There you
administration.
go.
That's what this is this time around, because it's believable because we knew what he was capable of when he had his clan attack the Capitol, because he didn't win. We knew.
Yeah, this stuff is unbelievable that anybody and like the you know Power 96 and them are asking about the black magas, these guys, you know these guys are just these are toilet bowls, the Byron Scotts and the people who they are toilet bowls. Give me a break. But
Well,
yeah,
I don't
bring them on. Bring them on the show.
I don't wanna say they're toilet bowls because they'll be
Bring
at
them
the
on the show. Let me urinate on them.
listen,
They're
they'll
toilet
be at
bowls.
hey. They'll be at the White House today. The MAGA, the Blacks for
Of
Trump.
course they will.
I'm seeing them
Somebody's gotta pick the cotton. There's cotton growing over there.
I'm
Somebody's gotta
seeing
serve.
them posting their invitations all over social media, and some of them are posting favor ain't fair. And we're gonna have a Trumpster on tomorrow to talk about their experience at the White House. I don't know if I want you talking to them, Stacey, because
I don't know that they wanna talk to me. I'm bloated for bear. I thought we was having one on this morning I was ready.
well, no, because the celebration is today, so we want to get the aftermath. We want to get the post conversation, not the pre conversation. We want to know what.
Anybody who's supporting this is just low lives. I could care less. Let me tell you right now, bring them on. It's no excuse to support this.
Well, they will be here tomorrow on Let It Be Known to talk about the White House Black History celebration
Mhm.
and why they're Trumpsters. They're
The
going to
nigger
come.
celebration, right? That's what
They're,
that is all about.
they're proud Trumpsters, and I'm telling you, they got just as much feist as you. So get
I,
ready to
I, I believe it, but they're ignorant. You
get
got to be
ready.
ignorant. You got to be. Let's bring it on. I mean, listen, I'm ready. I'm ready. Shoot. This stuff
And this
pisses
is
me
what I
off
don't like.
when you see this guy mock people die and he's mocking them. It's like we talking about 50 Cent. This guy's a whole different level than 50 Cent because he's the president of the United States.
No, I think they're the same. I think they're the same. But this is what I hate that's happening with our country. Although I think what's happening was destined to happen because of the evolution of this country and white supremacy. But there was a time in this country where you could talk to Republicans and you could have relationship with them. You could go out and register voters with them. You could have debates with them. I've had a lot of, I won't say a lot, but a few Black Republican friends that I've actually worked with in political spaces. But we're in a time now where it gets harder and harder to have these communications and conversations with them, because it's like what's happening to our country, how can you condone it? How can you support him? What are you getting out of this? Because
What do you get? Right,
our people
right,
are not getting anything.
right. And this idea, again, you can be who you're for.
Right.
Democrat, Republican, whatever. I could care less. But when you start defending satanic stuff, like taking away, like we said, the those with disabilities, going after those with disabilities for no reason, the protections for them. When you start mocking and making light of people losing their lives in airplane crashes that didn't happen during the past administration, look it up. People say, "Oh, it had to happen." Look it up. Look it up. When you start mocking that stuff, the man said when the military Black Hawk flew into that plane in D.C. and the reporter asked him, was he going to visit the scene? And he said, "What do you want me to get in the water?" I mean, that dude is, come on.
I mean,
You
this is
cannot
the
defend that
same
stuff.
this is the same guy that went to Puerto Rico and was throwing paper towels in the audience. Let's not forget who we're dealing with. The
And
first administration taught us we are in the FAFO season.
David Youngblood is right. You cannot have a linear conversation with these type of folks. It resorts to whataboutism because well, Democrats have done. I could care less what Democrats have done. I could care less. You can sell that somewhere else. You're 100% right. They have not done right by Black folks overall. Overall, right? We
Well,
know that.
all I asked is that don't start on 10 tomorrow. Let's start at 2 and let's get to 10.
Oh,
If we start
they
at
make
10,
my
I'm
blood
telling
boil.
you,
When I see a Black person start opening their mouth and trying to tell people that this man is good for Black people or better than who? Satan is better for Black people than Trump.
and then they
I mean,
have
come on.
and they're part of the misinformation spread that's happening across the internet because
Yes.
you know damn well Elon Musk or Donald Trump has $5,000 to give all Americans.
Mhm.
So I'm saying this in reference to you saying what are the Trumpsters getting out of this? You have all of this fake news going around with these fake promises, and then they take those talking points and they go on different spaces, spreading the misinformation. And so we are
Yeah.
living in such a scary time in this nation because we don't have accurate information coming out. Mainstream media has had a mandate not to say not too much about the Trump administration in an unkind favor.
Mhm.
And then you have him terrorizing Americans from immigration
Terrorizing.
to jobs. And all I keep thinking about is Black jobs. We know
Mhm.
federal workers, the makeup of federal workers is predominantly Black people when you look at the whole number. He is doing everything he can to minorities to suppress us, oppress us, and take us back to a time where white supremacy and white dominance reigned in this country. And it's like, what are we going to do about it? That's why I'm excited about our guest today because she is not afraid to
She is,
resist.
yeah,
Yeah.
right. Exactly. So we have a great guest this morning. In the midst of all this, my oldest daughter sent
Mhm.
me a photo, a little story actually that said the headline, and I'll just read the headline because we got to have a little good news, right? She says the story says a new study shows that having daughters increases the life expectancy of fathers. Well, I have 4. So I'm gonna be around a while, whether they like it or
Okay.
not.
So you're a girl dad. Love it. Love
That's
it.
right. That's right. I'm gonna be around. I even
Kobe
got
was a girl
granddaughters.
dad. Yep, Kobe was a girl dad. My
That's right.
grandfather was a girl dad. There's something special, but I've learned in my family that you need a little testosterone in the family.
I got
Sometimes
a
too many
son. Got one
women.
son.
Okay, yeah. Because when it's too many women, I'm just sorry. I just through experience, I know.
These girls don't do that though. If anything, it's they just use and abuse me. That's
Oh, okay.
they gang up on me. They all right. They're good. But
that you know of.
Oh,
That you
listen,
know of.
I've seen the youngest and the oldest have their moments, and it's been the most entertaining theater I've, outside of, well, not even outside of, it's better than TV at times. It's great stuff.
Right, right, right.
But here's some good news. Some new, I'll say news that kind of gives you a little hope too, because I was looking at this too, Niel, just this morning.
Mhm.
We know about Trump and his executive order with the birthright citizenship, limiting birthright citizenship. Well, a 3-judge panel of the Ninth U.S. Circuit declined the Justice Department's request to reinstate Trump's order, because the court ruled it unconstitutional, and
Right.
then the DOJ sued. But more importantly, first of all, legal experts did conclude that that order conflicted with the 14th Amendment, right? So number one, you feel like, okay, there is some in the courts want to uphold that Constitution, right? Which is very
Mhm.
important, especially now with the dictator, right?
Mhm.
But here's the most important part of it, and I'm going to give you her name, which was the most important part. Judge Danielle Forrest
Okay.
concurred with the opinion and took issue with the Justice Department's characterization that this is an emergency. That judge, Danielle Forrest, is a Trump appointed judge. A Trump appointed, that's important, because the judges should be judges regardless of who appointed them. They should follow the rule of law. Now, we've seen Eileen Cannon down in Florida. She 1000% Trump, and her rulings, and people have gotten on her about her rulings and everything. She showed herself to be pro-Trump even in her rulings and trying to oversee that case down in Florida. This judge, a Trump appointee, said, "Wait a minute, my job is to follow the law. I'm I'm sure she's grateful Trump appointed her, but she's doing her job." And that's the whole idea.
Right, right. That's
If you
America. That's
hey, you
America
pick the
that I
man to be
know.
president. That's my argument, though, Neil. You pick the man to be president, fine. Then just let him do your job, but do it. Follow the law. The president is the number one guy. It's like I say with police officers. Police officers should not be able to run red lights and stop signs and do anything they want, as Cedric the Entertainer would say, all willy nilly, right? They should be setting the example. The president of the United States should be setting the example.
Okay, well, we need to move on from that because we know that's not the case in
That's
what
not
we're
the case.
doing. So,
He's like, forget about it.
hey, if was the fifth, we'd all be drunk. Okay, so we know that's not that's not
Hey,
gonna
what you drinking, girl?
happen. It's just coffee. But it's not, we can't try to hope that Trump will be better. We just have to make America better because we're not going to get it from his administration. It's going to be a hard hill to climb. But I think Greer was talking about this yesterday, is that we have to look towards the midterms. And we can't look at the midterms like we did 2 years ago, 4 years ago, 6 years ago, or 8 years ago. We have to start really picking people that are going to make the change that we want to see in this country. And sometimes it might not be a Democrat, it might be an independent, or it might be something else. But this two-party system that we're living in this country, I think that's part of the problem as well. I
Oh
might get a little
yeah.
flack from that, but the reality is that America is not happy with either party. But for some reason, Donald Trump has a dog whistle to a certain group of people, and he has access to wealth,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
and so which allows him to kind of control the party. But we've always had the power. We just have to go back to old school ways.
Well, Greer says, and I don't disagree with her at all. I know you probably will disagree, and I understand why you would disagree. But she says the voting game is a hoax for real now.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, you do disagree? I
But
mean, you
what
do
we
agree?
it feels that way. I'm saying it feels that way, but we can't get so cynical that we don't trust the process. I mean, at the end of the day, I've
Mhm.
worked in politics many years. Democracy is one of the most messiest processes ever. Okay, but it's the most fairest. It's because it's conducted by us. From even getting a ballot measure on a ballot, that's done by the people. You know, when you go to the grocery store and then people out there asking you to sign for to get a, that is a process that is made up by the people. Those ballot measures a lot of times are brought on by people like us. We partner with a lobby group, or we partner with the legislator. We get it on the ballot. Once it's on the ballot, then we vote. You know, and when we vote, the
See,
people that are taking our ballots are us. And so democracy is by us. It's messy, but it's probably one of the fairest processes that we can have until
well,
Donald.
David says if you overwhelm the polls, it's hard to cheat. I would have believed that until what we've seen in this past November. I just totally believe. I'm sorry. I totally believe that Kamala Harris won that election, and the Democrats, of course. And this is where I can side with those anti people that we're going to talk to tomorrow, where the Democrats are weak. They drop the ball. They don't even say anything. They want to take the high road or whatever. It's no high road. It's all low. Michelle Obama said, when they go low, you go high. There's no more high road.
And
There's no more.
I also think that the Democratic Party is still making a huge mistake. You cannot put this country on the back of Jasmine Crockett. You can't parade her around all of these news circuits and parade her as the voice of the Democratic Party. She is a voice, you know, and this is what they do to us. You know, just as much as Jasmine is hitting these news cycles from The View to MSNBC, Hakeem Jeffries needs to be in that mix too. But that is the problem, and that is the Democratic Party's problem in leadership. They need to make sure that we have a balanced voice.
Mhm,
Jasmine doesn't speak for everybody, although she speaks for me, although she speaks for
mhm.
92% of Black women in this country, although she may speak for the 78% of Black men. She does not speak for every Democrat, and they need to find a way to push a message that does not reside on one person's back.
Wait a
It's
minute.
not fair to her. It's not fair
I
to
got
her.
I gotta throw a little humor in here because of what I just saw in this headline. I just saw. And look, so we talked yesterday about ASAP Rocky, right? Getting acquitted, right? And we saw his reaction. He ran, he hugged Rihanna, and then I don't know if anybody saw the press conferences afterwards, but Rihanna went after. Well, she didn't really win after. She snapped back at this report, and she was 100% right. The reporter asked him how did he feel about his friend being murdered or dying or something like that. And Rihanna, look, she's like, "Well, how do you think he feels?" Let's move on. But here's the headline that makes me laugh.
What?
Rihanna and ASAP.
Okay,
Huh?
go ahead. Go ahead.
Here's the headline. Rihanna and ASAP Rocky was spotted at mattress firm store this morning because their old mattress broke through last night. I wonder why.
Wait a minute. We're in LA. There is no mattress store open at 5 a.m. Okay. See, that's fake news.
No. This was posted 19 hours ago.
Okay.
But wait,
Okay.
but listen. Don't spoil the moment, Niel. That's a
Okay.
great.
I mean, because
Listen,
you know, hey, we went from okay,
I said I was gonna inject a little humor in here, a little.
okay.
I mean, come on. Eh, Hey, ASAP, hat tip. Um, Nonetheless, let's move on. Um, I want to talk about Diddy for a second. Yeah, so that's a good segue. Go into entertainment world. Let's talk about Diddy for a moment. I mean, we keep it so heated in here with this politics, but let's talk about Diddy for one moment. Federal prosecutors, according to Diddy's attorneys, singled out Diddy because he is black, demonstrating, quote, bad faith and racial animus in handling his case. Um, here's what they're arguing. They're not saying that they just bought all these charges. They're saying they bought some of these charges because he's black. He says that, of course, he pleaded not guilty to racketeering, conspiracy, sex trafficking, and transportation to engage in prostitution. He's scheduled to go on trial in May. The defense attorneys accused the government of a racist prosecution because they argue, quote, no white person has ever been the target of a remotely similar prosecution. And they're talking about the transporting of prostitutes across state lines to engage in prolonged sexual activities known as freak-offs, according to the indictment. But they say yet no other person, and certainly no white person, has ever previously been prosecuted under the, quote, White Slave Traffic Act for hiring male escorts from another state. That is what he's being prosecuted under, what is known as the White Slave Traffic Act, because he hired male escorts and allegedly transported them across state lines. They also point out that he's been singled out because he is a powerful black man and he is being prosecuted for conduct that regularly goes unpunished. They said count 3 should be dismissed because it is clear case of selective prosecution. And they also give the example of former New York Governor Eliot Spitzer, who was also accused of being in a prostitution ring in 2008. He engaged in similar conduct, but was never charged under that act. So this is what's interesting, because, and as Trixie brings out, the Abercrombie and Fitch owner did the exact same thing, and they released him on bail.
There's a lot of things going on in this country right now. Diddy has his
Okay,
problems.
wait.
Let
Let me
him
stop
deal
you.
with them.
Yep. Listen, y'all know we are not Diddy fans. We also, I believe that he should go to prison for a little while, at least for what he did to Cassie, right? And y'all can defend that too. I don't see how you defend any man assaulting a woman. I'm not here for that. But here's the thing. This is why it's important. This is why I think it's important. It's the same thing, and people have heard me say this before, when understandably folks was turned off by Bill Cosby, black folks were, but they did not watch that trial. They did not pay attention to that trial. We were at the trial every single day, every single moment, and we saw a black man, forget he was Bill Cosby, because the other thing was he had a lot of money, and it's just not supposed to happen to people with a lot of money. The judge worked in concert with the jury and the prosecution to essentially lynch this man, take away his civil. I say lynch because you took away his civil and constitutional rights, and they do it to black men all the time. So that's why it's important, I think, to keep an eye on these legal proceedings. We know Diddy's a jerk, and he's a dirtbag, and he's a criminal, right? But it's important to look at what is going on in these courtrooms. It really is.
I mean, and we know that happens to black men that don't have the access or privilege that Diddy may have because of his wealth. And so, I mean, to your point, but this happens to black people all the time. One of the ways that we can combat this is by participating in jury duty. It's like we can't always, blame the system if we don't participate in the system. Like sometimes we have to pull up too. So if we want to be a part of changing the process, we have to be a part of the process. But as far as Diddy is concerned, I hear what you're saying, but that's happening to black people across this country every day.
But he is one that will bring attention. He's high profile, and I think that's why you got to pay attention.
And then we have spaces like this to where we can amplify black people that might not be a Diddy. That might not be a Diddy. You know what I'm saying? So I mean,
we can't an injustice anywhere. Oh, how that saying goes.
Justice everywhere. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
But we can't allow the narrative. We can't surrender. I think surrendering just one is surrendering too many.
But I think you can pick a better candidate because it's too many people.
We can always pick better candidates.
Better candidates.
Oh, I get it. I'm turned off by Diddy, but I don't like to see the process be rigged against a black man in a situation like that. I'm turned off by him too. And I'm not saying he should get off. What I'm saying is they should get off that one charge that his attorneys are arguing, because it is clearly racist. And we should not just give it a pass just because it's Diddy. We
Okay.
shouldn't. I don't think so, but that's me. That's that's me. Listen, Melina Abdulla is the co-founder
That's me.
of Black Lives Abdullah. I'm sorry, is the co-founder of Black Lives Matter. And as Donald Trump's presidency brings renewed challenges for Black Americans through attacks on education, healthcare, economic opportunities, and of course, Project 2025, questions of survival, resistance, and community protection are more urgent than ever. We talk now with Dr. Abdullah about these pressing issues and more. Good morning and welcome to Let It Be Known.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me. Good morning,
It's a privilege.
Neil.
Good morning, Dr. Melina. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Thanks for
Wait,
having me.
I should have just went with Dr. Melina. I should have just said Dr. Melina, right?
Dr. Melina,
Look, you're actually not wrong. If I spoke Arabic correctly, it would be Abdullah, but I don't. I'm African American, so it's Abdullah.
Dr. Melina, you heard the conversation we were having about Diddy. What are your thoughts on what Stacey brought up?
I don't care.
Oh, that's how I feel.
Yeah, I mean, I do care. I do care, but I have more pressing issues right now. So I don't want to get caught up in how many bottles of baby oil he has, or,
the store's out
things.
of baby oil.
Right.
But Dr. Melina, we always have, as Black folks, we always have a lot on our plates. And I just think it's a mistake. I'm not, again, like I said, and I always say, Diddy could go to prison for 20, 50 years, as far as I can care. But we have to be careful to just dismiss certain things that white prosecutors and white folks in general, the white system, does to anybody Black, including Sean Diddy Combs.
Right. Well, my belief system is I'm an abolitionist. I don't believe that the entire what one of your council members calls the criminal system of injustice, right? Dr. Yusuf Salam calls it the criminal system of injustice. It was built to put Black people in prison. At the same time, we're not saying that people shouldn't be held accountable. We're not saying that especially people who prey on children shouldn't be held accountable, that there shouldn't be protections. But I'm not looking to a system that was built to put Black people in cages to provide justice for us. And so when I say I don't care, I'm saying that quickly. But what I'm saying really is I believe that the system itself is illegitimate, and there need to be new ways and different ways to determine accountability.
Yeah, okay. I got you. And I feel you. Listen, Dr. Melina, so with the courts being reshaped to undermine civil rights, what legal avenues remain for Black Americans seeking justice?
Well, I think that we have to stop looking at the system as if it ever gave us justice, right? So, yes, there is an effort to make the system less fair, but it was never fair, right? So if we look at police killings, less than 3% of police who kill our folks have ever been charged with a crime. So it's not as if the rollback or the conservatism that's being ushered in quickly into the courts is going to vastly change the status of Black life, because the courts have never provided us actual justice. It's always been a criminal system of injustice. And so, yes, it's going to be even worse. Yes, it's a problem, but it's not going to vastly reshape our lives because the system was never fair. It was usually seen as a Hail Mary. Let's see if we can, right? So I'll give an example of Los Angeles, and Niel knows this well, that our former district attorney, who was one of those, happens to be Black people. Under her reign, there were 838 people killed by police. And in that time, in the 8 years that Jackie Lacey was district attorney, only one of those cops was ever charged, and they weren't charged for an actual murder, right? And so when we think about what's happened, and again, I'll give Los Angeles as an example, there's been a rollback on that position where we had a progressive prosecutor in for the span of 4 years who actually did do some really good things, including freeing Black people who were imprisoned as children and were being held on what they called enhancements. That was great for the 200 people that happened for. And now we've seen a rollback, right, with the election of a really repressive district attorney. But that doesn't vastly change things from what it's always been, right? And so rather than relegating ourselves to fear, we have to think about, well, what is the system that we're actually advocating for? And I think on the right, they do a very good job of seizing on moments and seizing on crises and ushering in their visions. And what we tend to do on the left is kind of cower in a corner and say, how do we claw back for what we've had when what we've had was never justice in the first place? We have to take this moment and say, no, not what have we had, but what do we want? And be fearless and courageous in struggling for what we want. And what we want is really a system of justice, not the old system or criminal system of injustice that we've had in the past.
Mhm.
Dr. Melina, you actually were on the ballot in some states this past election. You ran as a VP candidate with Dr. Cornel West in the presidential election. And so now we find ourselves under a Trump administration. Do you think it's time, or do you see the country moving forward in a more of a third-party system, or do you think we're just going to continue on the path to do business as usual?
Thank you for asking that question. So yes, being Dr. West's running mate was one of the greatest honors of my life. And I think that it underscores kind of what I was trying to share earlier, that under Dr. West and with our platform, we were really envisioning what we can have in the world. We were really pushing towards an alternative vision of the world, an alternative vision for this country, right? Where everyone is housed, everyone is fed, everyone is educated, right? Where we have true systems of justice, where we work towards the things that build a world that we all want, need, and deserve. Unfortunately, the main alternative to Trump that was presented to most folks was a lack of vision, as perpetuated by the Democratic Party, that again sought to simply hold on to something that never really provided justice or freedom for anyone, especially not Black people, especially not Indigenous people, especially not poor people. I think that if there's a lesson to be learned, and remember, we just hit the 1 month mark of this terrible Trump-Musk regime, right? And that's what we got to call it, because it's,
Oh yeah, without question.
that's what it is, right? We just hit the 1 month mark. And when we think about what's happening with these executive orders, with these flurry of attacks, they're meant to knock us back on our heels and get us to say, oh, how do we find our bearings, right? Or how do we find a way for ourselves individually to survive this next 4 years? But really, the answer is not saying we want what we've had, right? That's their answer. In fact, that's their slogan, right? Make America great again. We can't say, well, this is the again that we want. I think what people need to realize in this moment, and the lesson that we can actually learn from the other side, is that we have to be bold and courageous in fighting for, again, what we actually want. So as they say in diversity, equity, and inclusion programs, we have to say, well, we never just wanted a diversity officer at the university. What we actually wanted is a freedom campus, is a people's university that's open to everybody, to have learning opportunities and the opportunity to hone intellectual tools for everybody. When they say, you know, we're going to do away with minimum wage, right? We have to say, okay, we don't want just a minimum wage. We want a living wage, right? When they say we're going to defund housing programs, we have to say we want housing for all. Or when they're going to pillage Medicare, we have to say that means Medicare for all, right? And we have to be bold and visionary and work towards it, again, fearlessly. If I can, I want to just share a quick story of something that happened yesterday. One of the things that we're seeing with these ridiculous orders that are coming out of that regime, right? I don't know how an anti-DEI order can come out of the Department of Defense. That's not even their purview, right? I've been saying we can't preempt ourselves. Let's not preempt ourselves, right? Let's realize they have absolutely no authority. And unless we're complicit, they can't carry this out, right? So yesterday, Niel knows that every single Wednesday we protest in front of the police associations that sometimes call themselves unions. So we stand and we protest in front of the Los Angeles Police Protective League. And we've been doing that every single Wednesday for 4 years. Well, this Wednesday, LAPD rolled up on us and told us, you know, had 3 or 4 cars, lights going, told us if we didn't immediately leave, they were going to arrest us. So I just said, ignore the hell out of them. And everybody put your middle finger up. And we did. And you know what happened? They threatened again and said, now we're going to call for backup. And everyone's going to be subject to arrest. Hold your middle finger higher. They wound up getting in their cars and leaving. So that's a lesson. Don't preempt our own freedom. Don't preempt our own right to protest. Don't preempt our calls for real equality and justice. Do it until they make us not. There was a saying we used to have when I was in junior high school, when people would say, shut up. And you would say, make me, make me, make me. When Trump says, cut Black History Month, and then goes on to have a Black History Month program honoring Kodak Black and Herschel Walker. You know, when he says, cut Black History Month, we should say, make me, and refuse to comply, refuse to be complicit in our own oppression.
Well, many fear today under Trump and how just on a rampage and unhinged he is, that speaking out could now carry life-threatening consequences. What do you say to them?
Our life is already under threat. It's constantly under threat. Black Lives Matter was founded, was birthed because Black Lives Matter, Black lives are under constant threat. So if my life is under threat anyway, and it is, and every Black mother knows that it is, right? Then I want my life to mean something. So I'm not afraid, right? Fear has no place. What was that Will Smith movie, right? Fear is not real. Danger is real. Fear is not real, right? Don't succumb to fear. Don't succumb to fear. Resist fear and move forward courageously. This is Black History Month. Let's learn the lessons of Black history. What if our ancestors, what if Mama Harriet had said, I'm too afraid to seek freedom for myself and all my people, right? What if, you know, all of those who we honor, who we revere, what if Mama Fannie Lou Hamer had said, I'm afraid? What if our own mothers and grandmothers had said, I'm too fearful to fight for the lives of my children and grandchildren, right? I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid of anything. There's things that I want to happen and I don't want to happen, but I'm not afraid. And so we have to stand courageously. And when we stand together, I think that fear dissipates.
You brought up, Dr. Melina, Black Lives Matter, and I want to take a little time to talk about that. I saw yesterday on Fox that there's now a BLM Inc. Have you heard of that? And some gentleman named Executive Director Mark Fisher, and he was on Fox News. And it's so many people that have taken over the concept of BLM, be it Black Lives Matter Grassroots, which is your organization. Talk to us about the state of Black Lives Matter and where the work and who is doing the work and the mission of Black Lives Matter.
Sure. So I'm one of the original members of Black Lives Matter, of the Black Lives Matter movement, right? The Black Lives Matter movement was birthed the day that George Zimmerman was acquitted in the killing of Trayvon Martin, July 13th, 2013. When we poured out into those streets and said Black Lives Matter and said that this is a movement, not a moment, and committed ourselves and our lives to transforming the world, it was a movement, a boots on the ground effort in these streets. Black Lives Matter Grassroots is the true formation of that. We are 39 chapters around the country, 43 formations, and we do the work to make Black Lives Matter. If it doesn't say Black Lives Matter Grassroots, it's a fraudulent organization. So when you see what happened, and after 2020 and we received funds, Black Lives Matter never started out with any money. It was funded out of my pocket as a single mother educator. It was funded out of the pocket of a lifelong labor and civil rights organizer named Baba Keeley. It was funded out of the will and willingness of families like the Brown family to turn their pain into purpose, right? That's what Black Lives Matter was founded out of, right? The blood of our stolen loved ones and the sweat and tears of organizers who were willing to put themselves and our bodies on the line. When you see organizations that, pay more attention to the Grammy Awards or, being up in Super Bowl parties than they do lifting up Black lives, then they're fraudulent. If it feels like talking points from the Democratic Party, then it's not Black Lives Matter. And I'm specifically speaking about Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation. And Sister Niele, I believe in naming names, right? 3 consultants in 2022 came in and stole Black Lives Matter's resources, more than $100 million and counting, and our platforms, as well as our good name, sullied our good name. And now you have copycats. This is the first I'm hearing about whatever this guy's name that you talked about.
I'll send you the link.
What is it?
I'm going to send you the link.
Okay. It's the first I'm hearing about him, but there was another entity up in the Santa Clarita Valley that attempted to do the same thing. One surefire way to know if it's actually Black Lives Matter is if the people that are involved, you've never seen them on the front lines. If they have no battle scars, then they're clearly not fighting for Black people, right? They're clearly not doing the work. And so if they are, this is the most makeup you've probably ever seen me wear, right? If their face is always beat, right? And they always have on couture, that is not Black Lives Matter. If they are vacationing on Martha's Vineyard, right? That is not Black Lives Matter. But if you see us on the front lines, if you see us in Pasadena and Altadena doing the work, that's the work of Black Lives Matter. We don't stand on red carpets and call that our work. We stand on front lines. And so I want us to be very, very clear about who it is. So we are Black Lives Matter Grassroots. We encourage folks to follow our work. And we always say in the struggle to prove who we are, I'm Muslim, and one of the teachings that we have is to be the clean glass of water, that there will always be dirty glasses. And if you put a dirty glass in front of someone and they're thirsty enough, they'll drink it. But if you put a clean glass beside the dirty glass, they'll choose the clean glass every time. So our work is to be the clean glass of water.
Mm.
Is the Black Lives Matter name trademarked?
No, it's not trademarked. In fact, when there was an effort to trademark the name Black Lives Matter, we couldn't because it had been so widely used. We are incorporated as Black Lives Matter Grassroots, and that is an official 501c3 Black Lives Matter Grassroots, which incorporated as an entity a few years ago, but have been doing work for the last 12 years now.
And in the past 12 years, you know, we talk about police killings. Where are we at right now? What is the state of police killings? Have you seen a decline, or do you see it staying steady or going up?
So here's what's really interesting, and Mapping Police Violence documents this, that in cities and locales where there are strong Black Lives Matter movements, you see a decline in police killings. But where there's less of a movement, you see an increase. And when those movements begin to fall back, if you think about what happened in the last year or two, where Black Lives Matter grassroots efforts have kind of waned a bit, you've seen a surge in police killings. So 2024 marked the highest year on record for police killings. And that's after a period of decline. So from 2020 to 2022, there was a period of decline in police killings because there was a surge in Black Lives Matter efforts. With the waning of the movement, and I don't mean that we've gone home, we haven't gone home, but people are not in the streets in the same numbers as we were in 2020, 2021, even 2022. With the kind of waning, what you've seen is a surge in police killings. So on record, what we saw in 2024 is more than 1,200 people in this country being killed by police shootings. And that's an undercount, because when people are tased to death, there was a recent killing in Phoenix, Arizona, where after, the brother was tased and they used less lethal force, he died in the hospital, right? Keenan Anderson in Los Angeles, Waukesha Wilson in Los Angeles, Sandra Bland. Some of these killings don't count in that number because they're not seen as police killings. In custody deaths are not seen as police killings. And so we have more than 1,242 police killings on record in 2024, but there's far more than that when we actually think about the real count.
And before we let you go, in a time where oppression, as we have talked about, is government sanctioned, Dr. Melina, what does real resistance look like?
Real resistance looks like, you can't even see my sweatshirt, but this is my sweatshirt, right? Real resistance means saying we don't need somebody's permission to have Black History Month. And, I really wanted to uplift that in 1926, Dr. Carter G. Woodson, a former coal miner, the son of two enslaved parents, right? Someone who didn't become formally educated until he was 28 years old and didn't earn a PhD until his 50s, right? Decided that we need to have something that celebrates Black struggle. And so he ushers in Negro History Week, which nobody gave us. And they didn't choose February because it was the shortest month. It's because February 14th is the chosen birthday of Frederick Douglass, right? And then students at Kent State University decided a week isn't enough, so they took it as a month. And so, 50 years later, Gerald Ford recognizes it, but we've been having Black History Month. Resistance looks like remembering that Joe Biden might have recognized Juneteenth last year, but we've been celebrating Juneteenth, right? Resistance means that we don't wait for someone else to tell us what we can and cannot do. Resistance is rooted in radical vision and daring to organize ourselves to build towards that vision. So, what this moment requires is that we double down on visions of Black freedom, that we double down on a commitment to each other, that we do the work, that we join an organization in places like New York, seek out the Malcolm X grassroots movement, follow the leadership of great freedom fighters like the Barons, Charles and Inez Barron, right? Seek to do the work on the ground in places like the 39 cities where we have chapters and 22 more are coming online. Join Black Lives Matter grassroots. And wherever it is you find your gift, if it's in the arts, join a radical Black arts formation, right? If it's in education, join a radical Black educators coalition. If you are a teacher, make sure you are teaching Black history, and don't be afraid, be unapologetic, and be courageous in what we advance, and find courage in each other. And so that's what I'll offer, and hope that people join us in Black Lives Matter grassroots. And let me just uplift also the fearless work of the National Council for Black Studies, as they try to come for Black studies and truth in education. I'm grateful for the National Council for Black Studies and being fearless and making sure that we advance truth and advance the power of Black people and the truth about Black people in the classrooms.
Awesome. Well, Dr. Melina, we really appreciate you joining the Black Presses. Let it be known. Very insightful stuff.
Grateful to be here. Thank you again.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Thank you.
Wow. So nice conversation, Niel. And it's a nice
Motivated. When we talked about, find your space, I was thinking about where we're sitting right now. And our space is to uplift and empower news, views, and advocacy. And so we're in our space. So let's not neglect it and use it and put our foot on the pedal, Stacey.
the foot on the pedal. Well, it's a great segue into our Black History moments. You want to start it, or you want me to start it?
Go ahead. You start.
Well, I'm going to go back to 1869. On this date, in 1869, African American social reformer, abolitionist, writer, and statesman Frederick Douglass died.
And on this day in 1869 as well, Tennessee Governor W.C. Brownlow declared martial law in 9 counties, citing Ku Klux Klan crisis. We're just about there.
Yeah, exactly.
Trump Klan. I call it the Trump Klan. That's what it is to me.
Is that what it is? Okay. I'm with you on that. On this date in 1927, one of the greatest actors in the history of film was born, and his name, Sidney Poitier.
All right, let's speed up a couple more years. And on this date in 1956, local officials issued warrants for the arrest of civil rights activists Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Joanne Robinson, Rosa Parks, and the Reverend Ralph Abernathy for organizing the Montgomery bus boycott. The following day, a grand jury indicted 89 of the leaders of the boycott, accusing them of violating a 1921 statute forbidding boycotts without just cause. Now, is it 1921 the year of the Tulsa riots as well?
Yep, the race massacre. Yep.
Okay.
In 1968, on this date, state troopers used tear gas and clubs to break up a student demonstration at Alcorn A&M, which is now Alcorn State University in Lorman, Mississippi. Students had opposed the dismissal of 3 students who had passed out campaign literature in support of congressional candidate Charles Evers.
So that's our history, but now let's celebrate some
Wait,
birthdays.
No, I got one more.
Oh, you got one more? Okay.
I got one more. There's a big one in 1991. 8 African Americans on
Okay.
this date won Grammy Awards. Quincy Jones won for Album of the Year with
Hmm.
Back on the Block. B.B. King won for Best Traditional Blues Recording. Anita Baker won for Best R&B Vocal Performance, Female for Compositions. Luther Vandross won Best R&B Vocal Performance, Male for Here and Now. Ray Charles and Shaka Khan won Best R&B Performance by a duo or group with their vocal for I'll Be Good to You. MC Hammer, Rick James, and Alonzo Miller won for Best Rhythm and Blues Song for You Can't Touch This. And Natalie Cole won several awards for Unforgettable, a tribute to her father, Nat King Cole.
All right.
Now you can go to the birthdays.
Oh no, because I mean you jumped to music, so let's stay with music. And in 1992, Jodeci peaked at #1 on the Billboard charts.
Oh,
The classic, "Forever My Lady." And let's send out some prayers to KC. Jodeci had to cancel a few of their concerts because he has pneumonia. But you know,
oh gosh.
Jodeci, Dalvin, the
Wow.
birthday, JoJo, and KC.
Yeah, I
Now we
just
go to
saw
birthdays.
that was your band? That was your group?
Oh, Jodeci. Yes, followed them around every concert.
Really?
Love Joe. I just saw them last summer in Vegas, and JoJo
Oh.
wasn't there.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
I just saw a weird I call it weird because of the mix, but this weird thing that I think it was the Shade Room posted with all these different R&B groups asking who were your favorite
Yeah, I think
who's the
that was yesterday. Uh-huh.
yeah, and it had Jodeci in there, but then it had New Edition, Boys to Men, but then it had the Jackson 5, and it's like you can't compare anybody to the Jackson 5. Come on now.
Well, I think if you do it generationally, you can, because the
Okay.
Jackson 5, their generation, Jodeci was definitely a 90s thing. New
Right.
Edition was like the 80s. And it's funny because last summer, I went to go see both of them in the same week. I saw Jodeci and then I saw New Edition. So if you guys are in Vegas, go check out their residencies because they put on a fabulous show. It's intimate. It's not like a big arena, and it's just every seat in the house is a good seat, and it's just a fun time.
Wow. And RNG, of course, says Jodeci, long live the 90s. He says they were popular around, of course, his favorite time, Freaknik. So,
Oh,
he was in the Freaknik documentary, I'm sure. Daniela Pierre says Jagged Edge.
Jagged Edge 112. That was after Jodeci, though. It was Jodeci, then it was Jagged Edge 112, the Bad Boy, So Def kind of, era,
Yeah,
that type of thing. But Jodeci was from the Uptown era, pre
right.
Bad Boy.
That's true. That's a good point. All right. You can handle your birthdays.
Okay, so we can do birthdays now. So we're still celebrating Black excellence. So today we remember the late Sidney Poitier, who was born on this day in 1927, and the jazz singing legend, Miss Nancy Wilson, who was born in
Nancy Wilson.
1936.
Wow. That
You
is
want to keep
awesome.
going?
Who else you got? 1963, that round mound of rebound, Charles Barkley was born.
Yes, he was. And today we're celebrating the Navy Nation. We're celebrating Rihanna. It's her birthday. So we
It
know the
is?
best gift she got was keeping her man out of prison.
I beg to differ. I beg to differ. I mean, she would have had some very serious best gift of comfort if he would have been locked up, but we need not go there. You know,
And don't forget, wait, there's one more. There's one more. We have to say happy birthday to Trevor Noah. We was talking about him yesterday when he was talking about segregation, desegregation. Today's his birthday.
oh gosh, Trevor Noah. I saw DL Hughley kind of say some of the same things I was saying about that whole what you call it, integration thing he was talking about. So if DL is on the same page with me, then something in this universe is going the other way.
The question
um
is it the right way?
Listen, you never know. One quick thing though, Neil, we have not mentioned, and we probably should, is and Greer mentions it as well, that the situation in Detroit is really bad.
Mhm.
There was the flooding, and now they're frozen. Look at that
Right, right,
picture.
yeah. And we're gonna have a conversation about that on tomorrow's show. We're gonna be checking in with Aaron Amos, who is a executive producer over at CBS, who's been tracking this story, and so
I
he's
mean, look
gonna
at
join
that.
us tomorrow, yeah, to talk about it.
Gosh. I mean, those cars. I just don't know. Will those cars operate again? I don't see how.
Well, let's add that
Wow.
to the question list.
Yeah, absolutely. That is
That's everything.
horrible.
Mhm.
Boy, I tell you what, Detroit and the surrounding areas there, they have gone through so much. Flint, which is not too far from Detroit,
Mhm.
with the water crisis. And no one ever, that seems like people have just forgotten about it. The water situation never really improved there.
No, and that makes you think about Jackson. Was it Jackson? Yeah, Jackson, Mississippi. Like, what's the water status happening over there? I know.
Um,
Yeah, go ahead.
no, go ahead. Finish your thought. I'm sorry.
No, I know. Joaquina Clayton, who works with the Southern Poverty of Law, she was really big with helping, with the water crisis over there. So was Derek Johnson, president of NAACP. So I mean, we might want to check in with them and see what's happening, because that's what happens. Things become a headline, but then people forget. But there are still
Mhm.
people impacted by those issues, and they have to deal with it every day. So we definitely should check in and see what's
And don't
happening.
forget Michael Regan, the former EPA head under the Biden-Harris administration, he was on the ground. That
Mhm.
is what you'd want from somebody who heads one of these federal departments and really, really cared. These things touched him. We had him on the show a couple of times, and he spoke so passionately about it. But not only that, he tried to do something about it. And I tell you, we also had on the show, speaking of water crisis, that was actually fixed and reversed, and now they have some great waters. Newark, New Jersey.
Hmm.
Ras Baraka, that mayor doesn't get enough credit. That mayor, if if you want to believe in a politician, which I don't believe in politicians, but he is somebody that gets his hands dirty and gets the work done and cares about his community. It's a rare thing to have somebody in charge that really cares. And they had that water crisis there. It was similar to Flint.
Hmm.
And now some of the best water in the country comes out of Newark, New Jersey. So
Wow.
yeah. So there you have it. And it's a black mayor. How about that?
Yeah.
Raz Baraka.
Mhm.
So that's it for me, Nia. What you got? Anything?
I mean, I think we have
Covered it
completed
all.
our task for this morning.
We've completed the task. It's our mission is if we choose to accept it now. This thing will dissolve. It'll dissolve in 5 seconds.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for watching. Let it be known. We appreciate you guys. And come back tomorrow. Neil's already told you we got at least one guest that she's leaked to you already. So I'll come back
Oh,
and
but
find out who else.
you leaked the second guest when you said you ready for the Trumpsters to come on tomorrow and tell us
That's
about
true
the
too.
Black History program.
That's true too. I've been in training for this one. So I ate my Wheaties for that one.
Okay,
Let's
well,
get it on.
okay, I'm just telling you, Zoe Lee, she is not one to play with. So I'm gonna pop me some popcorn with my coffee tomorrow.
All right, she'll find out. She'll FAFO. We'll see y'all tomorrow. Thanks for watching.